Well, you know what, Griff?
What's that?
I think it's okay that we lost a game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, when you're coming off a back to back and the team's been sleeping for a week, that's what happens.
All right, we're back with another episode of the Caniac Report, and if things look different, it's because I have a different guest host today. I've got Griff from Caniac Sessions. If you haven't checked them out, make sure you do check them out. A great podcast, great host. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Well, before we get too into the weeds, just a quick thing. As everybody knows, we have a donation link. If you'd like to help us grow the podcast, please donate according to what you feel you should. And then a big thing we're going to do is we're doing another ticket giveaway this month. Yes, we just had one. We're doing another one. And of course, it's for Black Friday. So if you don't want to go shopping and instead you'd rather go to a hockey game, we're going to do a giveaway for that game. It's an odd start time. Yes, it's at 3 o'clock on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. The way to enter this ticket giveaway is simple. Just shoot us a message on Instagram, X, however you want us to know. Tell us what you're thankful for at this time of year, and that'll enter you in for a chance to win 2 tickets and a parking pass to the game against I honestly can't remember who we play on Black Friday, but the Black Friday game that's coming up next week. Well, Griff, we got some NHL news out of the dreaded Northeast. The Boston
Yeah.
Bruins are imploding, and it is fantastic. They have fired head coach Jim Montgomery. What are your thoughts about them letting go of honestly one of the better coaches in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, I didn't really agree with that at this point. I think I think if anything, you got to look at your roster and you got to look at management. I mean, Jim Montgomery has been, I think, in my opinion, a great coach there. He's done nothing but win, right? And then you look at management and how the Bruins management handled this offseason as far as their goalie situation, finally finding a spot to trade Allmark, and then, messing around with Jeremy Swayman all offseason, not getting him signed in time for training camp, and, just and then some of the turnover they've had. I feel like that's a recipe for success, or not a recipe for success. And they kind of fumbled there. So I don't really agree with firing your coach, because just like Cassidy, when they fired him, Jim Montgomery's going to go somewhere else and he's going to win. So, yeah, that's my take on it. Don't agree with it. But like you said, it's fun to sit back and watch the Bruins crumble for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Montgomery getting fired was the right decision. I mean, like you said, it's the roster. They lost Patrice Bergeron. They've lost Zdeno Chara. They've lost like all of their big guns over the last few years, and they've refused, as Sam and I've talked about, to go into any kind of a retool or rebuild. They're desperately trying to find a way to avoid it, which is something the Hurricanes did for a while. We desperately tried to avoid any kind of retool or rebuild. We were always part of that mushy middle, and if Boston's not careful, that's where they're going to end up being, because, well, when you have Pasternak and McAvoy and like Lindholm, you're probably not going to bring up the rear in the National Hockey League. But if you don't fill out the rest of the roster, you're probably not going to win. And I think Montgomery was getting the best out of him. I don't know if this new coach is going to do much. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
But if they want to keep failing, the entire league is ready for it. I don't know. Maybe it was Jack Edwards. Maybe that's what was keeping this team going.
No, I think it's management. I think the way they handled this offseason just set them up for failure.
Yeah, I agree. Well, one thing that's NHL news that does kind of affect the Hurricanes, it affects all the teams, is the salary cap's expected to go up. It looks like it's going to rise from what I believe is 88 million right now to 92.5 million. And it sounds like there's a good chance it could go up to 97 million, I guess, is the season after that. That's a big jump over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it is money to spend. And that just really, if you bring it back to a Canes perspective, that just helps us this offseason again, because we've got a ton of cap space coming up as it is. So just add that to the top.
So do you think there's something? Do you think, given that it's about 10 million from this year to not next year but the year after, do you think Carolina should dive into the free agency this off season, or hold off and take a dive in the following season when you have a little bit? You're going to have more cap space, but you're going to have more players due.
I think they need to do something this coming off season. I mean, they've got upwards of 30 million, free and clear. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they've got a plan for the future, but AB and I did a look at this a while back on one of our sessions where we kind of looked at the roster, what it could look like next year and how much money was available. And I think they've got a plan for the future. You can see the path. You have the ability to bring in a big name this offseason and still take care of your guys, right? With the rosters, or with the contracts that are coming off of the roster, and the players that you want to keep, there's money to do whatever you want. So I say get started now.
So that's going to add about 4 million to the cap, 4.5 ish this offseason. Is there anyone in particular other than Mikko Rantanen that you would have your eye on? And do you address the goalie market this offseason through free agency?
I mean, I think you're gonna have to address the goalie market. I mean, unless you want to bring Freddie back again, which I think that ship has sailed, especially after what we found out today. But whether or not they want to find a number one, or they want to find a solid backup to Kochetkov, that's yet to be seen. It's really going to depend on this stretch here in this season. If they go into the offseason feeling like Kochetkov's their guy for the future, then maybe you find a backup. But you're going to have to bring somebody in regardless. It's got to be somebody. So, but as far as forward wise, or I mean, it would be a forward. Defense is pretty much set. Rantanen obviously is a name, like you mentioned. I'm not sure as far as free agents, UFAs available this offseason. I think they, if it's not Rantanen, say Rantanen resigns in Colorado or goes somewhere else or whatever, I think they upgrade through the trade market, because I don't know if there's a dude like that out there beyond Rantanen. I know that Driscoll already signed in Edmonton. I don't really know who else is out there, coming up as a UFA. So I think it's hard to tell.
The biggest name that I'm thinking of that currently doesn't have a contract, but they sound like they're going to extend him, would be John Tavares. And and I've said it a couple times, I think I said it this offseason, that I think Tavares could make sense as an interim number 2 center. But if KK also keeps playing the way he is that a spot you really need to fill if it's not with high-end talent?
I think you need to fill it. I think you need to fill the 2C. I think he's more set as a third center. Okay. Stahl's not going to be around forever. And I think we've got another after this season. I think we got one more, I would say, of Jordan Stahl.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know about Tavares. I'm not big on John Tavares, but who knows? We'll see at this front office. They'll get creative. I think if it's not, if they don't want to sign the top dog out of the free agency, then they'll look at the trade market, and that's probably how we address that.
Did Marner resign in Toronto?
I believe he did.
Okay, I think Nylander did, and obviously Matthews did, but I couldn't remember if Marner got extended.
I'll tell you in just a second.
Because if he hasn't, then I don't know how Toronto can afford Marner, Nylander, Matthews, and Tavares. So one of them, I would imagine, has to go. So I would see it could be Rantanen and Marner or Tavares in the free agency.
Yeah, he's let's see. Maybe not.
I couldn't remember. I know that was something going in that he hadn't extended.
No, it doesn't look like he has.
So then Marner could be another player that hits the market. And if they have another disappointing year, he might want to hit the market and get out of Toronto. So that could be an option as well. He might want and I tend to feel a player coming out of like a big market like that might want something smaller when you come out of all the pressure, all the negative press that you get in Toronto. Maybe coming to Carolina could make sense for a player like Marner. So he's an option. He's not a center. He'd be a winger. He'd probably be playing with Aho. But
yeah,
something
I
to
don't
look
know.
at.
It's going to be interesting, but there's money to spend.
Very
for
true.
Sure.
All right, we're going to do a quick ad break, and then we're going to come back talk Hurricanes news.
What gets me excited about watching hockey is the fast-paced nature of the sport. Woo! Yes, that was Sam Driscoll, our other co-host that you heard. In fact, that is what got me sold when one of the first batch of games I watched was Game 7 between the Hurricanes and the Oilers back in 2006. Now, when it comes to going to Hurricane games, I am able to see quite a few great deals I'd like to go to in the future using the Game Time app. One of its features that I like to use are the seat views because it helps me visualize what I will be seeing when I'm sitting in that particular seat. Another key feature I like is the all-in pricing that shows your total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Well, we're back, and we're going to talk about Hurricanes news. Unfortunately, none of it good. So let's talk about the lesser of two evils, shall we, and Seth Jarvis. He's not on the trip. They've been very vague, I feel, about the Jarvis injury. I still don't think we know a lot. What is your overall thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a re-aggravation. And this is my speculation, but I think it's a re-aggravation of the injury from last year. Maybe not as serious. Maybe this is more, him being out is more of a precautionary thing. But he's been skating. He was practicing, in a non-contact jersey before the road trip. He didn't travel, but Rod did mention, I believe, yesterday that it could be an option for him to meet them on the road. So it sounds like they've discussed him playing or getting back to playing soon. So I doubt we'll see him, I guess, Saturday in Columbus, but maybe a real possibility to see him Monday at home against Dallas. But look, the team's been winning. If this is just kind of like a precautionary thing, just to make sure that it doesn't get worse, it's fine for him to miss some games. The team's been rolling. Tyson Jost has been, I think he's been playing great on the fourth line. So, yeah, no reason to force it.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. We haven't been losing game after game after game after game without Jarvis, so it's not like there's a desperate need. He's important, and he fills a huge hole in this roster. But I think right now, when you've had Nate just playing really well, who is has gone 2 games without a point, which is just
No, he had a point tonight.
Oh, he did get a. That's right. He
The
assisted on the
Svechnikov goal.
So he has only gone 1 game without a point, which is always good to see your best player do that. And I mean, you're just not in a position where Jarvis, where you have to rush him back. And I agree. If he can get better, he can get healthy and get 100%. It makes sense because he was practicing in the yellow non-contact, so he's getting some skating time. He's out there, he's playing, and the practice there. But I think Rod had said, or Adam Gold had said on his podcast after the Flyers game, that Rod doesn't feel he needs to get a practice in. As soon as he's ready to go, Jarvis is going to go, which I completely agree with, and he should go the moment he's ready to play.
Yeah, agree. And I'm assuming that he is skating, here in Raleigh while the team's on the road. So, who knows what his status is. But he's been active on X all day today. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw it while we were watching the game. I pulled up X. I was like, someone made like a fake Seth Jarvis account. And then I was scrolling through and I'm like, oh no, that's actually Seth
It's
Jarvis.
actually him. Yeah.
He's bored. Because I went back and I looked. I was like, oh, he's got a lot of followers. Oh, this was made in 2016. Oh, this is actually Seth Jarvis. I was like, oh boy, he is bored. This is concerning.
It was funny.
But you know what? I love the personality that the players have, and when they can kind of express that a little bit. And Jarvis and I think Svedge are two of the probably biggest fan favorites on the roster. I mean, everyone loves Aho, but I mean, I think Svedge is the player that is most beloved by the fans. I think Jarvis is probably number 2, with Aho number 3, and then probably Natchez. And
Kochetkov's quickly rising up the list too. So
absolutely. And it's because of stuff like that Jarvis does, right? Like it's his like quirky little goofy things, and same with Svedge. But now let's get into the meat of the news, the worst part of the news, and that's Freddie Andersen is having surgery. He is out 8 to 12 weeks. The earliest that would mean would be he would be coming back right around the Eric Stahl jersey retirement game in January. And that's probably the best case scenario for that situation, because Freddie Andersen does not play unless he is 100%. So, Griff, what does that mean for this team?
I mean, I'm not sure really what it means. I don't know if it's, it's fine. I think it's not unprecedented. We've been here before. We were here last year for a different reason, but the team management, the coaching staff, the whatever, they know how to handle this. They know how to navigate this because it's so familiar, which sucks to say, but it's just true. And, we had the same conversation last season. Do we need to go trade for a goalie? What do we need? Like, is Kochetkov and Martin enough? This time last year, it was, is Kochetkov and Ranta enough? And it wasn't. That's how we ended up with Spencer Martin, who kind of really bailed us out in a lot of ways. But then, fast forward to this year, you've got Kochetkov. I think he's managing the workload fine. He's winning. Sometimes he has some moments that kind of make you raise an eyebrow, but for the most part, his body of work has been fine. Martin, I want to believe in this guy. I really do. You watch him play Ottawa, gets the shutout, looked really, really good, and then he comes in tonight, and tonight against Jersey, I think probably 3 of those goals, there's nothing he could do. But then that 4th goal, or was it? Maybe it was the 3rd goal, the Dougie goal, the Dougie Hamilton goal. I feel like that should have been one that he had. His shot total wasn't high. He didn't really, but I felt like he was always under some kind of pressure. I felt like Jersey was in the zone, their offensive zone a lot. And Spencer Martin's either going to have to stop playing the puck or he's going to have to get better at it. But yeah, big picture, you're going to have to either give Kochetkov the brunt of the workload, like I think they have, and then hope that you get good starts out of Spencer Martin. Tonight, I think we were losing no matter who was in net, like we talked about in the opener. But I think before the team makes a trade, goes out and makes a big splash, I think you need to determine what you have here. And I think this next week's going to tell us a lot because the schedule is brutal. So I think you're going to learn a lot about yourself this week and then kind of reassess and go from there.
I think you and I probably agree that I don't see the need to go out and try and get a John Gibson. I don't see the need to go out and get like Varlamov. I don't see a need to go out and get like a number one. What I've been saying is let's go get a guy between Martin and Peretz or between Kochetkov and Martin. It's not a top-tiered goalie because I still think we have that. Kochetkov's been very good. I honestly, at the top of my head, can't think of a game where I was like, oh, yeah, that was, brutal from Kochetkov, at least in current memory. I felt like he's been pretty good, especially because we won a whole bunch of games in a row. But I feel having a goalie between, because I don't think this team wants to play Peretz.
No,
I think that
not.
is an absolute non-starter. And I think Tulski's answer today was kind of in that same ballpark where they're looking at what's available, and that's been clear. And now that you have Andersen out, and just because it's 8 to 12, it could be longer than that because Freddie takes forever to get better, and then doesn't mean he doesn't come back and get hurt again. That wouldn't shock me either. So I think you need to have another goalie. Now, maybe it's in-house. I know Dustin Tokarski has been playing well in Chicago. However, I'm also like, well, that's the American Hockey League. I kind of want a goalie who's maybe played a little bit more in the NHL, which is why I was okay with the Jack Campbell idea. Not because I think Jack Campbell's going to come in here and rock it, but because he's played in the NHL before and he's been successful.
Yeah,
it's a guy between Martin and a guy between Peretz. I don't really, if it is Tokarski, I would still feel more comfortable with Tokarski than Peretz. But
yeah, absolutely.
It's a cheap. You don't need to go out and spend a first-round draft pick and go get a goalie.
Yeah, I think the only way that you would do that, the only way I think, if they had something, fall in their lap that's like a guy that has some term, and that you're going to need to replace Freddie Andersen next season. So if you have something fall in your lap and you feel like it's worth it, that the price isn't crazy, and you set yourself up for years to come, then maybe you pull the trigger on that. But if that's not the case, if you bringing in a guy for 1 year or a rental or something like that, I think is unnecessary. Tokarski is interesting though, like you said, 2 shutouts back to back in Chicago. He's on a professional tryout, so the team would need to sign him, which that may very well come here in the next day or two, especially after what he did the last this past week. So yeah, maybe maybe they do that to kind of get, like you said, get a buffer between Yanni Peretz and Spencer Martin. Tokarski's had, I believe let's see here, he's had over about probably 60 games of NHL experience throughout his career. But he's a 35-year-old guy. So he's got a ton of AHL experience.
I mean, sign him to a 1-year deal. Like I said, he's the guy behind Martin. And if Martin falters, you can always try Tokarski. Like I said, I still think if somebody falls in your lap through waivers, and I know we kind of hinted on a goalie of the, if it made sense, just thinking of goalies and teams available where that could make sense. The only one that comes up, and I think it's still far-fetched, would be Ilya Sorokin from the Islanders, because that is a team that's just not in a good way.
Yeah.
And then my guess is they would want Peretz back. They would want a young goalie rookie to potentially. I don't think it happens, but he's the only goalie that I could think of from a team that could try and rebuild that it would make sense for them to move a guy with a contract. unless, I mean, there's Peter Mrazek. He's got just 1 year left, I think, after this. Nedeljkovic, I think he signed a 2-year deal, so that one's another goalie. I don't know what Tristan Jarry has, but I don't know if I really want Tristan Jarry. So, it's just I can't think of many goalies with term other than like those 3.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorokin just signed a contract, I believe, this past offseason.
Yeah, I think so.
Or
It was
maybe 2 years ago.
He's got term. Like I said, that's a goalie that could make sense for us, but even then, like I said, long shot trade. The Islanders aren't going to move that contract, and they're not going to want to move Sorokin.
No. Yeah, he's in year 1 of an 8-year, $8.25 million annual value contract.
And this team ain't going to pay goalie $8.2 million. It will never happen. They will go the 1A, 1B. They believe that is the formula for success. It has not worked in the playoffs.
Because he hasn't gone to it in the playoffs.
Which is an interesting thing for me. And I'm curious to see if Freddie is healthy, if they do it. Because they should have done it against the Rangers, and they didn't. And it severely cost us in that series. Because that series, we didn't play well, but a lot of it was on Freddie. And I would be interesting. But, if Freddie's not healthy, you still might need another goalie, or it's going to be just Kochetkov, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But, all in all, if there's some cap issue here too. If you go out and, make a trade for a goaltender, that's why I think that the route to go is, an AHL guy that can play in NHL games if you need him to. And I think that's ultimately the route they'll go. I mean, if we revisit, going to get a number 1, you take on the contract, then Freddie comes off LTIR, assuming they put him on it. Well, if you bring in a number 1, he'd have to go on LTIR. Once he comes off, then now you're over the cap, and you've got to figure that out. So,
yeah, this team just doesn't normally utilize LTIR, so I don't expect them to do it now. So they're going to keep as much as they can on because they want to accumulate the cap space, which I understand. I don't really think this team does anything this offseason, personally.
Offseason? Trade deadline.
Trade deadline.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do anything. I don't expect it. I would be shocked if they go in and make some big splash. And honestly, to be fair, I wouldn't make a big splash this trade deadline. I don't think it's necessary. Especially because in my view, this team will be twice as good next year when you look at what's coming. So I don't know, but we're going to go to a couple ads, and then we'll come back, recap the games, and head out. Sound good?
I like it.
I know one of the most exciting things about Black Friday is a laptop that I can get $250 off. That's something I don't normally get. Except with Raycon, because with Raycon you get an amazing deal on premium audio every day of the year, but that doesn't mean they're not having any sales for Black Friday. Far from it. They're actually doubling down on their amazing value by offering my viewers up to 30% site-wide. For example, they now feature a 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once, especially if you haven't checked out their latest model, which includes plenty of new features that make them even more of a must-have for any audio lover. It's time to save big for Black Friday. Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get up to 30% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/THPN. The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
All right, Griff, let's run through the first game, which is the Flyers game, which is the better of the two games that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And even in that game, I would say Carolina didn't play very well through the first 40 minutes. I think they played okay in the first. The second was not very good. It was concerning. And then you got to the third. But, I mean, it was all good feelings in the first minute of the game because Jalen Chatfield gets his first of the season and puts one past, I don't even remember their name, the goalie's name. He's a Russian dude, but gets the first goal of the game 30 seconds in. I mean, that was just a heck of a Fedotov. Okay. And that was just an excellent way to start the game, right? 30 seconds in, 1-0 Hurricanes.
Absolutely.
I felt like Carolina played well through the first 5 minutes of the period. I think they were putting pressure on, but nothing really happened after that. It was one of those where I felt like, maybe we didn't get enough out of that rush of getting that first goal.
Yeah, maybe not, but I still kept the other team off the scoreboard. So, that's until that the only goal that went in should have never gone in, but it did. It was the one that I don't remember who it was, but
it was 2 minutes and 13 seconds into the second period. So the first period completely scoreless other than 30 seconds in. Ryan Failing, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
That's right.
He scored 1-1. It was a shot from the point. It wasn't a shot for a goal. It was a shot to just get it on net. And Kochetkov was daydreaming. Sleeping, daydreaming. And it was not a pleasant experience to watch.
No.
Puck goes in, it becomes 1-1, and you're like, yeah. And Philly took over that period. It was not a good period for Carolina. Philadelphia's playing their game. Tough game, hard checking game, what you expect from a team coached by John Tortorella.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. However, again, the fact that it wasn't great. We couldn't get to our game offensively. But I still thought we played solid defense. Thought Kochetkov kind of made up for that goal that he let in, which it's hard to do because that was horrible. But he kind of locked in. If it weren't for that, I think he'd had to shut out. But yeah, keeping the other team off the scoreboard is important. And then we all know what happened after that.
Yeah, we get to the third period after again you had a tough grinding period in the second by Philadelphia. Again, what you expect from Tortorella. But Carolina is just that much better than the Flyers. Rod juggles the lines, and the line juggles work because it was the two lines that got shifted around that score. You get a goal just a little over a minute in from Sebastian Aho. You got the Martinuks, Aho, Roslovic line gets up there and just does what they do, and they put the puck in the net. Aho gets one heck of a goal, just throws it on net. And again, what's skill going to do? You're going to create your own luck, and that's kind of what happened there. Then the other new line that was put together was Stahl, Carrier, I believe, and Svetch. And that line gets on the board. Shortly after, about 5 minutes later, Jordan Stahl scores, and it's 3-1, and all of a sudden Philly is reeling. It is all Carolina in this period. Once again, the Flyers just don't have the skill or the speed or the ability to really keep up. And it's nothing against the Flyers. It's just roster. And Orlov and Chatfield figure in on that one. And that is not all she wrote, because then Jack Roslovic, just a little less than a minute later, gets one. That's his 10th goal of the year. Jack Roslovic having a heck of a season. That's something to talk about real quick. Jack Roslovic has been nothing short of a surprise and has proved a lot of people wrong this season. He's got 10 goals. A lot of people felt that wouldn't make sense bringing him in, but he's proving that he belongs on this roster.
Yeah. I think this system fits his style. That, his speed, his, kind of his, simplify the game down for him and watch him work. Right. It's like, when he was in New York last year, I thought he was good in the playoffs against us in that series for the most part. He was noticeable anyway. And he was playing top line with Kreider and Zibanejad. So,
yeah, look, my argument for Roslovic has been, if the dude ends up popping 30 goals, I don't know why you don't sign him again. He's going to be the cheapest 30-goal scorer on the market. He's probably going to want to stay here, given that would be his best season. I don't know if he gets 30. I'm actually going to be pretty happy if he gets like 20 to 25. But I think the way he's playing, 30 is a reasonable ask from him.
Yeah, he's going to get to 20 at least. I think we can go ahead and pencil him in for 20 at least. I mean, he's what did he hit tonight or was it last night?
10. He's at 10.
10 or 11?
I think 10 goals. He's got 10.
Okay.
Yeah, last night with his 10th.
And he didn't score tonight. Right?
No,
he didn't.
And
why did I think he had 11?
No, he did. Roslovic scored, so we can use that as a segue into this game. Roslovic scored the last goal in Philly, the first goal tonight. Roslovic, yes, he put Carolina up 1-0 against the Devils. So
That's
he's
right.
at 11. So he's at 11 goals. He only needs 9 more to get to 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, saying he could get 19, I don't think is ridiculous. We're not even, a quarter of the way through the season?
No, we've played, 19 games? Tonight was 19?
So
Yep, 19.
I mean, I think I think 30 is where he should be. And if he gets to 30, or if he's close to 30, when we get to the freaking deadline, or whenever it is you can extend him, I would say try and extend him before the season's over and just lock him up. They don't have to do like 8 years or anything, but if you want to give him like a 3 or 4 year deal, if he'll take that, I don't know why you don't.
I think you give him a contract, and I'm sold on Eric Robinson too.
Well, yeah, I think Robinson would be another player you can get on a pretty good deal. He'll get a pay raise, so will Roslovic, and I think those are two guys that fit this group and fit the system and fit where you need. You needed a replacement for Nason. I think you found it. You needed a replacement, I think, for Gensel, and so far I think Roslovic, where he's not Jake Gensel, he is obviously playing really well with Aho.
Yeah, I like it. I if it makes sense, keep him here. He's on a 1-year, $2.8 million contract this year. I don't, if he pops off 30 goals, maybe it goes up to 4.5. I don't know, but I'm on board with keeping him around. I've enjoyed, liked what I've seen. I'm on board with keeping Eric Robinson around. I really, really like the additions, all of them.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Well, like I said, he opens the scoring tonight, so Carolina starts off winning this game, and that feels good for a little while. But unfortunately, Jesper Bratt ties the game, and we go into the first intermission tied. And it's, again, one of those periods where I think Carolina was the better team in the first. New Jersey probably felt lucky, like Mike said in the game, to be tied. Another game where Carolina probably should have gotten a little bit more out of the first. But as we said in the beginning, the schedule very unkind to our group. New Jersey off. They're going to have all of the energy and that shows up pretty obvious in the second period. Carolina started to not look good, and we were lucky to get out of that period just down 2-1 because former Carolina Hurricane, and you knew it was going to happen, Steph Nason scores, gets his 10th of the season. He's having a heck of a season. Power play goal, 5-on-3. Carolina has put themselves in really rotten positions on 5-on-3s too many times this year. Discipline has not been a very great thing for this team this year. I think I've seen more 5-on-3 penalty kills this year than what feels like the last 3 seasons combined.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know where the heck it's coming from. I don't know what's changed to make this a thing. I don't understand. And it's not like I have a problem with the calls. I mean, I think this year I've been more gracious toward officiating than I have in the past.
Very, very aggressive penalty killing. I think it might have something to do with it. I mean, we've always been aggressive, but there's something about this year. I feel like they've amped it up on the penalty kill, and it's super, super aggressive. Lots of contact. And look, I'm gonna be honest, some of these 5-on-3s that have been, thanks to a dive here and there or selling a call, that tonight wasn't the case, but it is what it is.
It's true. We get to the third period and Carolina gets a power play at the end of the second. Start the third, 12 seconds in. Great. It was a set play off the board. Svetch gets the puck and just rifles it past Markstrom. Carolina ties it, and we're thinking, I know we said in our group chat, we're feeling better. We're tied. It's really just, and I think a lot of us are thinking, okay, let's get this to overtime, get the point, and then whatever, happens. Well, good former Carolina Hurricane, Dougie Hamilton, had other thoughts, and he rifles one past Martin for the 3-2 lead. This would go on to be the game-winning goal less than a minute later. About less than 5 minutes later, Carolina goes on the penalty kill. Jesper Bratt pops one in, and that is the last goal of the game. New Jersey will win 4-2. Carolina pulled the goalie, unable to get anything really going. They had a couple of good chances. I think Nate just missed the net. And not the greatest game, but one that, if you look at the schedule, like you said, probably expected.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I really didn't. In years past, I've seen this team, you kind of look at a road trip like this and you say, okay, 3 games on the road with a back-to-back, with travel, you'd expect them to lose one of those games. In years past, we would have dropped both.
Agreed. Yeah.
You come into the front half of back-to-back, like last night against Philly, and they would drop that game and they would turn around and drop the second half as well. So the fact that, this season, and again, small sample size, it's good that, there hasn't been a game, maybe except for maybe Utah, that we've gone into and lost when I said that's one that you should win no matter what. Right? I mean, you could argue St. Louis, but St. Louis is a decent team. There was travel. Pittsburgh to St. Louis, that's a road game. And then you rattle off 5 wins on that same road trip. So, losing a game like tonight is not a big deal. It is what it is.
So if you're freaking out, just remember this team is the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. We're gonna lose some games. I don't know if we are now, but going into the game today, Carolina was the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. We're a good team. This is a good team. They have shattered expectations. They shattered my expectations. I know they shattered my co-host expectations. I think you're one of the few people who really felt we were going to have a heck of an October, which we did. And I mean, there are even some pundits out there who had us missing the playoffs. They're looking pretty foolish right now. Doesn't mean this team couldn't rattle off some kind of ridiculous losing streak, but I just don't think this team. I don't think this team has that in them. I would be utterly shocked at this point. They've proven that they can win.
They know the formula.
Oh yes, and it's not a big deal. We have one more road game against Columbus. That'll be a fun team. Columbus is a fun team to watch. I watched a little bit of them recently. They're a very young team. Obviously, they're young and they're not as talented as Carolina, so I do expect us to win that game. But if they go into that game thinking they're going to win, again, Columbus is a young team. They still have some talented players. They're, again, an exciting team to watch. I watched them play Boston the other night. Again, I watched the last game of Jim Montgomery's career in Boston, and it was amazing. So I watched that game, and as soon as it was over, I told Sam, I was like, he's gonna get fired after this game, and not that he deserves it, but you lose to Columbus at home, you're probably gonna get fired. Now I thought there was more things that Boston could do other than fire the coach, but that's the easiest out, is to move on from the head coach.
Right.
Well, do you have any other final thoughts you'd like to give about the last week, couple games, weekend news?
I mean, I'll just say that, like, just kind of piggybacking off of my previous statement about, this team has the second best goal differential in the entire NHL behind Winnipeg. We keep saying that, the Canes need to finish, the Canes need to score. We're right up there with the top teams in the leagues in goals for.
It's like 4, right? Like 4 a game. It's like 4 a game, isn't it? Like that's what we're averaging, is like 4 goals a game.
Something like that, yeah. But 74 goals scored in 19 games, really good. And then we're allowing the fewest, one of the fewest in the entire league. So, this team's special. That's all I got.
I agree. Well, why don't you I'm sure they know, but why don't you let everybody know where they can find you guys on X and how they can listen to you?
Yeah, so we're on X, Instagram, Facebook, all the socials, at Caniac Sessions everywhere. YouTube at Caniac Sessions. We are live usually once a week. We've been off now for a few weeks because we've gone through some changes that we will talk about tomorrow night when we're live at 7:30. That's Friday night, probably tonight as you're listening to this. So 7:30, we'll be live on YouTube and X. So check us out, and we'll update you on what's going on and talk some Canes.
Well, as always, thank you for joining us, and thanks everyone for listening. Again, if you want, like the video, subscribe, give us a review. We like all that stuff. Griff, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man, enjoyed it. Anytime.
We'll see everybody next time.